Hello, everyone. I am super excited to have Asraa Ziadi here today. Asraa is a patent consultant at Ström and Gulliksson in Stockholm, in Sweden. And she's here for my first episode of A Day in a Life, which is a new series in the Post-PhD Directions podcast. And Asraa, as I said, is a patent consultant. So today we will talk about everything that is related to patent consultancy. What does it really mean to be a patent consultant? How does a day look like in a life of a patent consultant? Do you need a law degree to be a patent consultant or not? And which skills are transferable from a PhD? And what could you potentially do today to prepare for your next step if you want to become a patent consultant? And Asraa, she will tell us a little bit more, but Asraa got a PhD in chemistry from Stockholm University in Stockholm. She then moved to Japan to do a postdoc and eventually came back to Sweden to become a patent consultant. And we will talk about your journey a little bit, but also what it really means to be a patent consultant. Welcome, Asraa.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to say I actually did my PhD in Spain. So I did my master and bachelor, or like the bachelor and the master, at Stockholm University. My PhD in Spain and then postdoc in Japan. So that was good. But I know many people, when I tell them that I studied in Sweden, they always say, oh, so you did your PhD in Sweden.
Sorry, Asraa. I don't know. I was so convinced
No
because,
worries.
okay, see, this is like, and I didn't even ask you anymore because I was so convinced that
I
you were
know.
at Stockholm University.
Yes,
But
and
it's
you
funny.
know everything about me now.
No, I know everything. And actually, now that you said it, of course, I know that you've been in Spain because
Yes.
you speak Spanish. We gave this talk at the Spanish Association. So now, my memory is coming
Yes.
back, of course. So apologies, Spain, of course.
No worries.
But this really goes quite nicely with our very first question. Would you just like to share a little bit about your journey before you became a patent consultant? What did you do? What was your PhD in?
Yeah. So I did, so as I mentioned, I did my bachelor and master degree at Stockholm University. And I did that in chemistry. My master was in organic chemistry. And then I joined the institute in Catalonia, ISIC, in Tarragona. And I joined them as a summer fellow. So they had a summer school and you could go as a master student and just work there, get to know, work in different labs and just feel how the institute feels. And I did that. And then I got offered a position, a PhD student position there. So I stayed there and it was really nice. I have friendship for life now. It was really good, very challenging. And then I did an exchange in Japan during my PhD in Spain. And I also got offered a postdoc position. So I left when I finished my PhD, I came back to Spain, finished my PhD, defended it, went back to Japan to stay there as a postdoc. And then maybe 1.5 years as a postdoc, I realized that I didn't really want to stay in the lab. Actually, I already felt that I like research, but I wanted to go broader. But I also went for my postdoc because I really liked the project in Japan that I was working on. It was a new institute that was working in Japan. It was a collaboration between chemical biology, chemistry, computational chemistry, and then we all collaborated together in small groups. And that was really nice to see a whole project in a different way. And then I realized that I liked the research, but I wanted to be even further, just to have even broader sense of the research. So I got offered actually a position as a scientific communicator and business developer at the same institute where I did my postdoc. And that was really nice because that helped me learn Japanese even better and host events and write press releases and just learn that type of administrative work as well, while still staying close to research and science. But then I got homesick and I felt like maybe it's time to come back to Sweden, to Stockholm and stay with my family. And so I did in 2019. I just moved because anyone who has lived abroad, maybe in US or in Japan, knows how difficult it is to apply for jobs when you are so far away from the country. So it was much easier to just come back and stay with my family a bit, relax, just visit friends, and then look for a job. And during this time, while trying to find out what I wanted to be when I got big, I actually started to freelance a bit as scientific journalist. It was called Kemi Världen at that time. And I think it's called Life Science of Sweden now, the magazine. And then I came across a blog actually that made me end up where I am today. And it was basically a blog explaining what I wanted out of my career. And it did say, if I remember correctly, I believe it did say that if you want to combine science with business development and taking care of clients and a profession and a job where you are never bored and there's always something new to come, so you never do the same thing again, almost never, then patent profession might be the one for you. And I really got excited, so I applied for trainee program. And I got into the profession through the trainee program at Potter Clarkson. And then I joined Strömberg this year, actually, as a patent consultant. So yeah, it's been a long journey.
Big congratulations on the new position too,
Thank
because
you.
I know you just started. So that's actually pretty huge. So now you already answered my next question, which really was a little bit what motivated you to transition into patent law. For many of us coming from the lab bench, it seems like not something super obvious. And I guess it was the same for you. And you stumbled across this article at the time. And that's actually the reason why we're sitting here, because I hope that someone stumbles across this podcast and maybe feels like you, oh, wow, this actually really, really resonates with me.
Yes.
So when you moved, you already mentioned it a little bit that you needed to do some extra training. So can you elaborate a little bit what it actually means to go from a PhD into become a patent attorney? What are the steps you go through?
So the best way is to apply for a trainee position in places that offer it. So any firm that offers trainee program, that is the best way to start. And I do know that many people believe that maybe to enter the patent profession, you might need a law degree, but you don't. So at least in Sweden, you don't. In Europe, you don't. So you come as a scientist with your scientific degree, your technical degree, and then you will build your law knowledge at work. And that is what the training is mostly about. So you're basically training on the different tasks. You're training by learning the law. And you also have exams. So you have to pass the European qualifications, and you might have to pass the national qualifications depending where you're working. So yeah, the training is basically that, just learning from sending emails and analyzing different things, but you already have most of the knowledge you've already built most of the knowledge during your PhD. Yeah.
So that's also, I think, a question a lot of PhDs have is what are skills that are transferable from your PhD into becoming a patent consultant? What were skills that are actually really helpful for you in that role?
You will read and write a lot. So it's really good if you do like reading and writing. You will be a problem solver. So you will have to critical thinking. That's really good if you're critical when you're looking at things. And sometimes you build on it or having good analysis skills. So if you're good at analyzing things and so on, and you get better at it. But it's good that you need to be able to work on things, because you will learn a lot of things and you will keep on learning. So I think having that curiosity is really, really helpful when you want to enter the patent profession, because I have talked to people who have been 20 years into the profession and they still say that they're learning something new. So it is a profession that you will always learn something new. It will never be monotonic. So you won't see the same problem twice, and you keep on learning new things even after 20 years in the profession. There are very few people who can say that in a profession.
Cool. So if you love learning and if you love acquiring new information, it's definitely a job to look at. Asraa, what do you think is the number or the percentage of people that hold a PhD degree that move into patent consultancy? I've talked to a patent law firm the other day. They say they have 90% of PhDs. I just want to kind of show the audience it's not just sometimes a good to have, it really is in some cases a requirement? What would you say?
I would say it depends on the field. Really depends on the field. I do know that many times in chemistry, you do continue to do a PhD because that is the best way to learn hands-on to do the experiments. But it's not a necessity. So it's not a necessity to have a PhD when you enter the patent profession. There are many people who have done bachelor or master, and then they enter into the patent profession. They still have good scientific knowledge. So it depends really on the profession. I feel that sometimes in chemistry there is more, just because people also do a lot of more just to feel more of how, yeah, like hands-on in the lab. Usually you do a PhD in chemistry, it's just different fields.
Okay, and now that we're talking about the fields, could you just out of your experience, because now we talk specifically about chemistry, but if we talk about the range of different backgrounds, what have you met or who are the people that would be needed if someone is listening now and saying, okay, I don't have a chemistry background or a biology background. Could I also be a patent consultant if I have a background in data science? Or so what have you come across?
So usually it's people with technical background. That is the one that enters the patent profession. And a lot of it is basic science. So you are in biology, in biotech, you are in physics, you are in in chemistry. So it's like usually with technical background that you enter into the profession.
Okay, perfect. And now let's jump into what does a day look like as a patent consultant? So how would you describe a typical day in your life?
Well, as I mentioned, usually you don't have similar days when you're working in the patent profession, but it can be anything from, so you do handle clients a lot. So it's a lot of hands-on with clients as well, giving advice and giving strategy advice and working. So you can enter into the office and then you might have to write a response to an office action. You have to write a new patent application or you have to file new amendments to the patent application. So it really depends from day to day, but you also go on business development or you go on client meeting and you have to meet the client. You can be sitting in board meetings just to explain the value of the patent application of the patent family that you're handling. It's you can do due diligence, you can do different things. It depends on it doesn't stop at one task. You can be inside of the office and just sitting at the computer, but you can also go to the client and have meetings or have the client come here and go to meetings, or you go to different events to meet students or to meet other potential clients. So it really varies.
So would you say it's a more collaborative or independent type of working, or what's your feeling?
I would say to a degree it's both, because what I like about this profession is that you can collaborate, you can ask for help when you need to from senior, because there's always someone who's more senior than you, or just like discussing something that has happened. For example, if you're discussing one specific patent application, then you can discuss it with your colleagues and ask them for their opinion. But you can also do the tasks on your own because you are working on your own. But you can ask when you need to ask people for help. So I would say it's although it does sound like a very lawyer answer to say, it is both.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's good. I think it's really important because to talk about it, because I think for some of us, we're so used to independent work. We kind of don't want to, we don't want to be in maybe an environment where you're too much dependent on others. Although I think it's tough when you move into industry. I feel like it's so much more teamwork than compared to academia and the lab, of course. So, Asra, what do you think are skills that one requires to succeed as a patent consultant? You mentioned a few, but if you could pick some, what do you think is one should enjoy doing or should at least have a strength in?
So you will handle clients. So you need to be able to talk to clients. This is one of the things, because our clients are the ones who we're working for. We're service providers. So you need to know how to handle clients. That is one important thing. But also you need to be able, as I said, at critical thinking, spotting mistakes. So now with more AI coming, we are having lots of tools that you can use, because humans will always make mistakes, but AI is not making the human mistakes. And that is why we are using them. So I think you will be giving strategy advice, which is good, reading and writing, not just for the work, but also for exams. You will read and write a lot. You need that ability. So you need to like reading and writing quite a lot. And yeah, all of that with the critical thinking and analysis and problem solving. These are very important aspects that you need to have.
And if we think about career progression opportunities as a patent consultant, now you came fresh out of your PhD, you did a trainee education, which I think was 3 to 4 years, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, 3 years.
3 years, and then you start at which level do you start, and what are your potentials for growth?
So it really depends. In every firm, you have a different title. So I was associate and here I'm patent consultant. So it really depends. But basically the official title is patent attorney, European patent attorney. When you pass the European exams, then you will have an official title. So all of the titles before that are titles usually given to you by wherever you're working, your working place. But the official titles are the ones that you get from the organizations. Where you make your exams. It would be just like in a law firm, I would say, that you will become a partner afterwards, or equity partner, or board members, if that's your ambition to go even higher. So it's similar to, I would say, similar to a law firm.
Okay, nice. So when we talk about law, I think one of the questions a lot of PhD students might ask, what kind of work-life balance could someone expect when pursuing such a career?
So it really depends on how much, because there's always more work to do. And usually you work by deadline. So you have a lot of deadlines. And sometimes you have a lot of deadlines, especially by the end of the year. Maybe beginning of the year, you have so much to do. And then maybe it quiets down in summer, as we know in Sweden, quiets down during maybe July till September. So then it will be a bit more quieter there, and then it starts again. So it really depends on the time. But in general, I mean, we are in Sweden, so usually you have good life-work balance.
Thank you. So if you think about being a patent consultant, what do you think are some of the challenges that you have encountered, if you have ever encountered any?
I mean, definitely the exams. It's a that's a very big thing, exams, I would say. And also I think in the beginning it was just difficult to know what the client needs to know. For example, like not to give them too much information, because it's just going to fluff the important thing. So basically just keeping it to the basics, and then give them with an advice. Maybe this is the best way to go because of this and this. So I think that's a good thing, because usually maybe I'm used to more giving all options. As scientists, you just give everything out. And then do you let someone else maybe decide? But here it's more like you have to customize the information when you give it to them, just so that these are the essential things and we believe this, but you have these and these options. So I think just to be more concise and straight to the point, that was one of the challenges in the beginning.
Okay, what would you say is one of the most rewarding things for you personally in this career?
I would say the argument, when you're arguing and you know you're right, and then you're putting all of the right information. So you're finding scientific papers that prove exactly what you said, or even patent applications that say exactly what you are saying when you are finding a response to the examiner anywhere. And I think that's very satisfying when you know you're right, and then the examiner accepts it, like, okay, fine, you're right. And that's quite satisfying.
Nice. If there is someone out there sitting thinking, okay, maybe patent consultant or attorney would be a path for me, what advice could you give a PhD to consider if they want to move into this direction? Is there anything they can do today to prepare?
Maybe find out when different firms usually put out their trainee program. I think that's a really good thing, because I know that many people believe, that's one of the questions I always get asked, like, do we need a law degree before we start? And in general, you don't. you don't need it because you will learn it in the work. So if you want, you can take some law, but it's not necessary. You will learn everything by doing it. That is how you will learn. So I think the best thing that I would advise is to find out when the different training programs are open, because you can still apply for it even if you're still studying. You can apply for it and say, go for interviews, and maybe you can get it. And then when you finish your PhD or your master or bachelor, then if you have gotten, then you can start directly after. So I wouldn't wait until you have finished your studies to apply for these positions.
Perfect. And if someone is a bit unsure whether this would be something, I mean, you seem to have read this advertisement and you knew it's you. If someone is a bit unsure, is there any way that you know of to test the waters? So is there like a shadow day that someone could come in and see what's being done? Or yeah, I assume it's a bit difficult with the innovation, of course. What would you recommend someone to figure out more about this profession? Or how could you get in contact with someone, just like to talk to you, for example, and, know to get a bit more insider information?
I've had people just write to me on LinkedIn. Honestly, I would say if anyone is a bit unsure, to apply for it and see. And no matter what, these skills that you're going to learn, they will still be applicable wherever you go afterwards. Just understanding the IP process and then how it works, that will be helpful, because you will also learn skills that you can take anywhere else, wherever you go. So it doesn't have to be only in IP. So if you enter it and you feel, this is not really for me, then you can always, even when you transfer someone else, it's always going to be an asset that you have learned about the patent profession or the IP profession.
Cool. And now I think many of us, they went into becoming scientists, or they wanted to become scientists because they're impact driven. And sometimes I get the question, some of us, they want to work and they want to still make an impact. What would you say is the impact that your work as a patent consultant on the innovation process or society?
Well, usually many of those startup companies or even big companies, they are spending a lot of money when they are doing research to come up with a product. It takes a lot of money for not only for the research, for the employees, for everything, for making a company run. By filing a patent application, they will have the right to stop other people from using the product without their consent. Then they can license it and get some of the money back. So that is really good just for people who believed in the product to keep their jobs and to continue working. So that's really good for the economy of a country as well. That you notice that, okay, yes, this company has come up with a product. They spent a lot of money to come on this product. And now, yes, they are the only reason why they are stopping other people is that so they are able to sell their product and stop other people from making illegal copies and selling it. And then they are not getting the revenue back for all of the money that they have spent on research. And then their employees will be able to keep their job. So I think that's a really big impact.
Nice. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Asraa. And if you could go back in time, would you still choose to become a patent attorney?
I do like the profession. I do enjoy the discussions that we have, and I'm happy that I can also use a lot of my skills, not only the knowledge skills and my scientific skills, but also my social skills, because that's also a very big asset to use if you want to work in this profession, to be able to talk to people and to be able to explain and present and all of this. And I'm quite happy where I am.
That's really good to hear that you would still do it. And I think it's a little bit like, doing a PhD, everything that is somehow really rewarding or requires some sort of effort. So Asraa, I have one last question. Have you ever had this feeling that you regretted that you did a PhD? And I'm just asking because I know that when we're sometimes at this point of a transition where many of my listeners are, they feel like I'm either overqualified or underqualified. Somehow I'm never good enough. I invested 5 years into my PhD and no one seems to want me. For you, how did you feel and how do you feel in hindsight?
I have to say I've heard that from many people, even sometimes from friends that I did PhD with. But I have to say I have never felt it, which I'm very lucky about. because I feel that I learned so much. My network still grew. So my friends are spread everywhere, because academics, usually we know people from everywhere and we just go everywhere as well. We spread everywhere. And when you go to conferences, you meet people and so on. So I would do my PhD again, because first of all, it shaped me to the person I am. I don't know if I would be where I am if I didn't do my PhD. I've traveled so much. I've lived in so many countries, and that's something that academia usually gives you, that you're able to live in different countries. I don't know if I would have ever been able to live in Spain or Japan if I was not in academia. And that was a really good opportunity that I got just because I did my PhD. And all of the people that I have met, I would not do my PhD. I would do it again.
I really love this answer. Thank you so much, because I truly believe a PhD is so much more than a degree, or, it's even more than learning skills for a profession. I think it really equips you with life skills, but also it gives you an opportunity to go to all of these different countries. And I think, having lived in different cultures, having to adapt, it really shapes you as a human being. And it totally resonates with me too, because I think I wouldn't be the same person if I haven't come to Sweden for my PhD. And really, I left my comfort zone to come here and build a life. And a lot of us do that. And I think it comes with a huge amount of growth. And with this, Asra, thank you so much for today. Thanks everyone for listening. I will put Asra's LinkedIn profile into the show notes. If you have any questions, you may reach out to Asra. She's really nice. And if you need a little bit more help, check out our website, also in the show notes. And I hope to see you next week again. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review. I will be back with another Day in a Lives episode soon. Thank you.